just outside. Okay, seeing nobody, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, first up is consent agenda, approve the board minutes from October 7th. Sale of excess right away. Leaf Community Forestry Grant for Chester Woods Park, award of contract SAP 055-603-037 for CASA 3 bridge replacement. Amendment to solid waste agreement between Dodge County and Olmsted County. Approval to accept the 2025-26 towards zero death grant award in the amount of $84,600. Department of Public Safety, Office of Traffic Safety, and G, accept the child and teen checkups contract agreement.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Okay, discussion decision items. Accept Minnesota Solar on Public Buildings Grant. Yeah, Tony? I never did.
So before Matt gets started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this fits in, this solar grant for public buildings fits in with our climate action plan and strategic. So first with the grant fits with the climate action goal of finding opportunities for renewable energy. And then it also fits with our strategic priorities under environmental sustainability for one, the plan and implement renewable energy sources, renewable energy sources, reduce reliance on fossil fuels, and finally demonstrate leadership in energy use and sustainability to empower others to take action towards a sustainable future. So that's how it kind of fits in with our climate action and strategic plan, Matt's grant application. And then lastly, I just want to talk about the sustainability coordinator position. It opened up last Tuesday and it'll close on the next Tuesday on the 28th. Right now as of 4 o'clock, we had 46 applicants. So, but with that, I'll hand it over to Matt.
Thanks, Tony. Good evening, Commissioners. Matt Miller, Director of Facilities and Building Operations. For consideration this evening is acceptance of a grant through the Minnesota Solar on Public Buildings program through the Department of Commerce. So back on August 1st, the state opened this grant up. It was previously only eligible in Excel territory, and the state decided to open it up beyond Excel territory. So we submitted buildings in both People's Energy Cooperative and Rochester Public Utilities service areas. We just found out this morning that we were awarded 4 more grants. So as I mentioned, for consideration is acceptance of 8 solar on public buildings grants. It will require you to do a budget change. So there's 2 parts here. One is for the budget change to cash flow this project. It's about $540,000 in reserves. And then the state will reimburse us for 70% of that cost. And we're also required to submit for Inflation Reduction Act reimbursement for the other 30% of that cost. So the reimbursement between the feds and state can't exceed 100% of the cost, but the idea is it fully funds the project. The cash flow, unfortunately, will have to get us through probably 2027. So the state is saying that we'll get reimbursed within 30 days of submitting reimbursement requests. And then the feds, you have to submit the tax year following when it's placed into service. So assuming we get these projects completed in 2026, we can submit an application to the federal government, to the IRS in 2027 for the federal reimbursement. So as Tony said, this kind of supports the overall climate action plan. The locations are 3 buildings at the Public Works Service Center, the new exhibition center at Grant Park. So they allowed us to submit applications for buildings not yet built. It includes 2 locations at Oxbow, which is the nature center and the caretaker's house that is soon to be built, as well as the main office and caretaker's house at Chester Woods Park. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Current year in CIP, that would be, we plan solar projects on all these, and that's what we would have done with our own funds in the year listed.
So the year listed, we did have some in the current CIP. So as an example, the exhibition center, we had money set aside in the current CIP to install solar panels on that building. The others were planned for future years. Yep.
So we actually have in the next 5 years, $543,000 that we're going to get back.
Correct.
from plan.
Yep. But again, it's cash flowing it on the front end and then getting reimbursed on the back end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Each of these projects then will pay for a portion of the energy use of the building that they're on, or some will exceed what it is, or just. Can you tell us what it'll save us per year?
Yep, it's a little bit of both. So we're allowed to apply for up to 120% of the annual consumption for the buildings. So on an example like the Chesterwoods Caretaker's House, we're able to install 120% of that annual consumption. So in theory, depending on how that usage grows over the next few years, we're covering more than 100% of that. So on a monthly basis, I think the bill for August was about $80 in electric usage. And then obviously we'll have to continue to pay the customer charge to keep the meter and, regular utility power. On a building like the Exhibition Center, it will not cover 100%. So on that one, we can go up to 40 kW of AC power, or 60, it's roughly 60 kW of DC power. And I don't know the percentage of what that offset is, but generally we have 2 systems that will be maxed out at the 40 kW, and then the rest will be smaller than that because they're at the 120% of the annual consumption for that building or for that site.
Remember when we first talked about this, we talked about a payback of X amount of years that was based on us getting one of these or both of these? What was it?
Yeah, it was based on the 30% Inflation Reduction Act. So we have a solar array working at the Kelmar landfill. We have one at the cold storage building in Eota, and fingers crossed that the solar array will be brought online at the government center tomorrow. So on those 3 projects, we receive a 30% credit from the Inflation Reduction Act. And generally that reduces your payback into that 7 to 10 year range from 15 to 17 years, depending on the building.
Essentially with this now, we'll be payback right away.
Exactly. Yep. It's essentially a free solar array at each one of these sites, assuming we get the reimbursements.
Any questions? Or do you need action?
2 motions or?
Yeah.
Yeah, or just acknowledge that it's both acceptance of the grant so that we can move into the contracting phase with Department of Commerce, and then the budget change to be able to cash flow it.
I would move to approve the Minnesota Solar on Public Buildings grant and a budget change to cash flow the 543,000 and change.
Second.
Okay, we have motion second. Any discussion?
Maybe just a comment, since this is going to be a short meeting anyway. It was mentioned this is, generally speaking, this money is used in the XL service area because it comes from XL customers vis-a-vis what we call the Renewable Development Account, which is $500,000 a year for each cast at Prairie Island. That's what XL has to put into the state of Minnesota, into the Renewable Development Account for the price of storing those casts there. And so that fund accumulates over time. The legislature never seems to really kind of spend it down, and I suspect it got high enough so that they expanded the use, or at least the opportunity for it to I'll call it Greater Minnesota, outside the XL territory. But the fact that it's outside the XL territory is unusual, and frankly, to be a little selfish, it's our benefit to take advantage of this point.
Great. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. All right. Next up, update on the impacts of the federal government shutdown. Amy.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Amy Rockwater, the Deputy County Administrator supporting Health, Housing, and Human Services. We also have in the room some folks from Family Support and Assistance, Public Health, and also Channel 1 if there are questions along the way that they are better suited to respond to. So as you requested Friday, I am here before you this evening to share an update about where things are at with the anticipated impacts of the continued federal shutdown, and also to provide some space for discussion about consideration of an Olmsted County response to contributing to an increase in food resources in the community. So we could go to the first slide and I'll run through just some of those updates or what we know now. So for Medicaid, current information is that CMS will have enough funding to administer Medicaid through the first quarter of their federal fiscal year 2026, which is through the end of our calendar year this year. It really isn't clear at this point how Medicaid recipients and service providers would be impacted in January if the shutdown continues. Right now, half of the workforce that administers Medicaid is furloughed. So come January, if there is not funding for the other half to stay in place, what we don't know is who administers and keeps that flow of dollars going to states, which then goes to pay providers. So there's more to learn as this gets closer and unfolds, but right now that's not entirely clear. Folks that are Medicaid recipients would continue to be eligible, and there is Medicaid funding. That's a separate funding mechanism from the current budget that's being debated. So it's really more about that administrative piece and getting the funds to the places that it's supposed to go. Housing rental subsidies are expected to be okay until January 1st. So we're staying in tuned to any changes there, and we'll provide you updates as we have them. MFIP, so this was new today, kind of late breaking news. Families will continue to receive cash associated with their Minnesota Family Investment Plan. So Minnesota has a MFIP plan that combines the benefit of cash and food for those recipients. It initially was not clear if the state would be able to separate those to still provide the cash payment while the food was on hold because of the shutdown. The state did report that they do have a way to separate this now, and so cash benefits will continue. On the next slide, I now have combined just food support that includes numbers for folks that are on SNAP and also MFIP who receive that food portion. So as of now, this hasn't changed. If the shutdown continues into November, there will be insufficient funds to pay November SNAP and MFIP food benefits. So that is 6,653 households in Olmsted County. And those households include 12,817 people. And then that benefit total, looking at August, was about just short of $2 million. You might remember when we spoke about this as SNAP on its own, that was about 1.7 million. So when you add the MFIP food portion in there, that increases a little bit. So recipients were to be notified today, I think prior to 4 p.m. But also I think important for you all in the community to know that Family Support and Assistance will continue to accept applications, conduct interviews, request verifications, and process those applications up to the point that they can. They are keeping track of those things that are sort of waiting in a queue for when the shutdown ends so that they can press whatever button that is that moves it to its final approval. All other programs that Family Support and Assistance supports is business as usual. On the next slide, the WIC program, or Women, Infants, and Children program that operates out of our public health department. That is the nutrition support program that helps young families with a healthy pregnancy, encourages breastfeeding, and helps ensure healthy infants and children. They serve over 3,000 clients every month, and participants using WIC make over $250,000 in food purchases in stores across Olmsted County. Now, out of that $250,000 per month, about $88,500 goes specifically to formula for the 475 families that need that formula through the program each month. And then to break that down even a little bit more, 50 of those 475 families receive a type of medical formula that is about $14,000 of that 88.5 each month. So right now, the state reports having enough funds to cover food costs through mid-November for WIC. So next slide. So I wanted to put on one slide for you the gap, sort of bringing all of those things together. That WIC food benefit portion, which excludes the infant formula, about 160,000. There's the infant formula again broken down by medical and other. We think if there was an interest in supporting the medical formula, that is something we would need to purchase. For the other 74,500 in formula, there may be some other options to purchase that at a better rate than what we can purchase in the store. Some potential partnership with Channel One if that's something they're able to access through the avenues that they have. And then food support benefits of just about 4 million to those 6,700 households. We have had a number of conversations here in the last couple of days about all of this, including with Virginia, who's here in the room at Channel One. And they did put together an estimate on, this was based on the 1.7 SNAP dollars of what it would cost them per month to fill the anticipated gap. And that was $375,000 per month. And that was calculated based on a cost per meal estimate, comparing the retail cost of a meal and their cost for a meal with the way that they're able to purchase food. We know there's conversations happening in the community around donations, potential fundraising, and there is a strong food security coalition in our community. They did meet yesterday, and they are also talking about strategies for donations and so forth. One thing that I think folks heard at that meeting loud and clear is that adequate food resources in the community is an existing challenge that will be exacerbated if folks don't get SNAP and MFIT food benefits. So next slide, and we can go back to any of the other slides you want. I just wanted to open it up for you to have any discussion or ask any questions about the information provided to any of us in the room here today.
So I want to clarify something. So Channel One's saying that for $375,000, they can provide the same amount of meals as as $1.942 million.
They based that on the 1.7
1.7,
for
okay.
the SNAP dollars.
All right, so
Yeah.
Retail versus-
So the retail cost of a meal was $3.83, and Channel One's cost per meal is 78 cents. Certainly, Virginia's here if you have more questions about how that looks.
well, why wouldn't the federal government just use partners like Channel One all along?
I mean, is that okay?
So the cost.
So that's a good question. There's only so much buying power that food banks have across the country. So it will be a stretch for us, and we need to act now if we're going to get this extra food to begin with. So SNAP is really effective because it also boosts retail. So, I mean, our retail stores in Olmsted County are going to be short that $1.9 million per month, and that's going to hurt. Probably less in Olmsted County than other counties where they have a higher percentage of SNAP spent at grocery stores. And if all the federal government's money was given to food banks, it would essentially create a second tier of grocery systems needing even more infrastructure. So SNAP is effective. It's the #1 defense against hunger. This isn't my first government shutdown at Channel One. I can't remember how many there have been, but we've never been this close to not having SNAP funded. And if we ordered more food tomorrow, we could maybe start distributing on November 1st. But when you're ordering in bulk like this, you have to prepare. And so food banks nationwide are doing different things. Some of us that have extra funds are buying more food, trying to get more donations. We're a Feeding America food bank, and Feeding America is doing the same as well. I mean, honestly and realistically, food banks cannot fill the SNAP gap nationwide. If Olmsted County is able to put money toward this and make an extraordinary gift, we can certainly do it here, but every county in Minnesota will not be doing this because they do not have the money. I don't know if we have the money or not. I suppose y'all would know more about that than me. And we had not considered before doing a SNAP gap only distribution. But if you give us funding for this, we want to make sure the meals go toward the people that are the specific people that are missing SNAP, not just everybody who needs food. So we would work with the county to do SNAP only distributions, probably a dry box and then a produce box and then a frozen for the protein. We typically don't like boxes. We like choice, but this is sort of an extraordinary circumstance. I've talked to the Rochester Public Schools, and they would partner with us to do distributions at the schools to those families if that makes sense. Olmsted County can't give us the names of folks who use SNAP, which did not surprise me, but I think are working on some heat maps by zip code so we could figure out where the most rational places to distribute would be. And I recognize that this is if the county is going to try to plug the giant federal funding hole, that's a huge decision. We're absolutely ready to help in the best way we can, but this is a whole lot of money. And it feels kind of like sticking your finger in the, I don't know, I'm messing up the analogy, but it feels like we're in almost, I'm a little tired. It's next to impossible to get. It's also empty bowls right now, so hopefully y'all had some soup today.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question on part of your comments. You said that in Olmsted County, a lower percentage of the SNAP benefits show up at retail.
I'm guessing, so I'm talking about the percentage of sales at grocery stores.
Okay.
Olmsted County is wealthier than other counties that we serve, population wise. So I bet the national average is 10 to 12% of all grocery sales are SNAP dollars, which is why the government not funding this is a huge economic
So
deal.
it's lower in Olmsted.
I don't know that, but I bet so.
Okay.
If I was betting, I would say that. Yeah, thanks for the clarifying question. Oh, and the $3.88, so $3.88 is Feeding America's best estimate of the average cost of a meal in Olmsted County. And then was it 76 cents that we quoted you?
Something like that.
That is our average cost of a meal. Is it like the exact same food people get shopping at the store? No, but it's like a doing our best, what we could come up with to help.
So follow up, you said the county can't provide SNAP participant names. You can provide a heat map to understand geographic clusters, if you will. But is there identification that they would walk up and show that they're qualified for SNAP? Is that how that would work?
Yes, Mary and Dan have looked a little bit at this today, and so, there's maybe a few ways that somebody could show verification, including possibly the notification that they were receiving today from the state, indicating that they won't get their benefits, but there are some other options too.
And so we really like to say, if you're in Minnesota, you qualify as a Minnesotan, come and get the food. But we recognize that this is just different, and this has got to be Olmsted County residents who are missing SNAP. So we work with the county, would verify people and distribute that way.
That's a question.
Go ahead.
Do you have any sense if those SNAP participants who have now received notification that they're not going to get SNAP benefits in November are also those who are already utilizing Channel 1? What kind of response we'll have in panic of, I'm not getting my SNAP benefits? And I mean, I don't even know how you measure that, but
We've been watching that for a week. I think starting Thursday, I guess not less than a week, Thursday, we started watching our numbers at the food shelf. And we hadn't noticed anything until today. We're a little up today, but it's too soon to tell if that's because people got that notification or not, because the rumor's been happening. And so, but I think was it 4 p.m. by 4 p.m. they had to be notified. So we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Our pounds per household has gone down from about 60 this time last year to 60 pounds per household to about 40 pounds per household. There are specific categories of food. There's a really good ProPublica article that explains how the federal government canceled the government commodities starting in January. So we are down almost 800,000 pounds of food and government commodities for the region. And so that's significant. We were at like 1.6 million this time last year, going calendar year, and being at 880 this time this year, that's significant. Our corporate donations are down, not because corporations don't want to, but because they've tightened their supply chain since COVID. And then with the increased cost of everything, they're making less food. If you'll remember pre-COVID, if you went to the grocery store, they would not run out of something, and now they do. That's the supply chains. The only thing we're up in is retail, and that's as we rerouted our trucks. And so we're up 1 million pounds in retail rescue, most of that going to Olmsted County. But that was the big lever we pulled a year ago, was rerouting the trucks and gaining an extra truck and an extra driver to rescue. We don't have another lever, a big lever to pull to gain more efficiency. So what I think will happen is if more people come, the pounds per household will decrease. And then if we run out of food that day, we'll just close the food shelf. We have never done that. And I don't want to be an alarmist. And to back to your original question, food banks are kind of the intersection of lots of food programs. So we can serve up to 300% of federal poverty in Minnesota as a government commodity food bank. And then you have to be under 200% to get SNAP benefits. Our growth has been in the working poor who can't afford the increased grocery prices over the past 4 years. Realistically, there's people who receive SNAP who are already shopping at Channel One. Because let's say a family, the average benefit per family, just dividing the 1.7 million by the almost 6,000 is like $315. So if you're a family of 4 getting $315, that is not your entire grocery budget. You're probably coming to Channel One and supplementing that, or using your cash, but you're so low income that you probably don't have extra cash to use. So you're going to need more from us. That's what we are anticipating. And I've thought about, sometimes shoppers, it's rare, but sometimes shoppers get frustrated with each other. They say, I see you taking a lot. Is that what you need? Doesn't happen often, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned that if a scarcity mentality starts, because the line is really long, I mean, we might ask for a police presence, which I never thought I would say in a food distribution. Generally, we want to turn the temperature down and make people feel super welcome. But we're looking at all kinds of things because I didn't think SNAP wouldn't be funded. And now I'm sort of worried this is really going to happen. But I mean, if y'all know the politics and if the government's going to open back up, let me know. We just don't know.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I remember at a recent update that you gave us, Virginia, you said that the shopping at Channel One is unrestricted. A person can shop and take as much as they need.
Mm-hmm.
Do you anticipate that changing with these extreme conditions as they are?
I would say it's restricted-ish. We're kind of, we use consumer science. So stores use consumer science to sell you things. We use consumer science to get you to make the healthy choice and to take a amount of food you feel good about, but not too much. So our shopping, we say 1 shopping cart per household, and those are smaller than like a standard Target or Hy-Vee shopping cart. So that automatically reduces you. And then it used to be, I was actually telling an NPR reporter that if she had been at our food shelf in 2022, even the meat would have been out and you could take what you need. It's been 3 years since the meat has been take what you need. So we have what we call a market counter where we have the meat behind the counter and we have really valuable items like oil, sugar, flour behind the counter. And then if we get like a really beautiful produce donation from retail, so like say we get a pallet of donated strawberries, those are going to go fast and people might get a little intense. I don't blame them. I would shove someone out of the way to give my kids strawberries too. It's just the reality of the situation. And so we pull those behind the counter and we hand them out 1 per household to not make people feel bad or restricted, to still have that nice atmosphere, but just to slow the intensity and the pace of the food. We've pulled more and more behind that counter. At this point, it's like peanut butter, macaroni, potatoes, like some basic things are unrestricted, but we're stealthily restricting things. We have to be careful about how our actions signal to the community. So if we go from shop weekly to shop twice a week, that might cause a community panic, and we don't want to cause a panic to cause people to take more food. This actually feels just like the beginning of the pandemic when I was worried we were going to run out of food, but I was on the news saying, don't worry about it, because I didn't want everybody to come in at once and like rush the food. We just didn't know what would happen. So it's tough. So on the one hand, I'm in public sounding the alarm to you about the reality, to our donors, to our government. But on the other hand, we don't want to make the public panic and all come shop at once. So it's not a good situation, and we've never been here before.
want to clarify something. You said if you ordered food tomorrow, you would be ready to distribute it when?
I think November 1.
November.
I'm told we can get a truckload of dry in like 4 days. Of the meat, our ops director said if we got a truckload of meat, a full truckload, which is $150,000, that would come, we could order that on November 1 for a November 15 delivery. That takes longer. Typically, we order food in partnership through our food bank partners in the Twin Cities. We order food as a state, which is awesome. So Channel One gets the low price, the full truckload price, the low price, even when we order by the pallet, which is unusual for a food bank of our size. So it's an awesome partnership. But every food bank in Minnesota can't grab from them at once, and they're trying to do extra distributions at MSP. So it's like a tornado and a hurricane is happening at once. So we can get food, we'll make it work. But it's kind of like, one of my colleagues in the East Coast said, when a hurricane is coming, you stage the food and you hope it'll turn into a tropical storm or miss. And we're not used to hurricanes here, but I guess that's kind of what we're doing. So, we could place the orders tomorrow. We could ramp up immediately. We don't have the money to do it unless we get some other kind of support, either from you or someone calls me with $1 million, which could happen, but it has not happened as of today.
You have some partners that are trying to work on fundraising there.
So like some states, I'm on the Feeding America National Council now, so I have a little bit more awareness about what other states are doing. And so some states, like the governor has a landing page and they're pushing that out and they're doing like statewide fundraisers. Other places aren't. What we worry about is that we've got to have food year round. It was a crisis before this happened. And there's no way we can fundraise. I mean, this is just 1.7 for Olmsted County, not for the region. There's no way we can fundraise for 14 counties to make up the entire SNAP gap. And Feeding America said from the beginning, before the One Big Beautiful Bill passed, that they can't do it nationwide, even being the number one charity in the country. So the question is do you call all your good donors and plug this hole for a month? And then what happens next month? And no one's really sure. Even the best fundraisers with the best knowledge are not really sure the right thing to do, because also it's about holiday time. This is our biggest time of year for fundraising, but we project that income in our budget, and that has to last the entire year. So if I call my best donors and they give money now for this food, what do I do come February?
Your needs are about $90,000 a month if you're going to, or a week, to be able to do this.
Is that what that number comes out to?
Yeah.
375 divided by 4.33?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm getting at is if the county decided to do something, but it wasn't 90,000 a week, what could you do with less than that if you could activate community partners to make up the difference?
I mean, any money you give us, we will put to good use. We will order more food. And maybe that means that, each SNAP participant gets like one, it'll be like a trio of boxes, like one food package and not 4 over the course of this. And hopefully this only lasts a week. I don't know. I mean, we're all making the same calculus. When the retailers lose this money, will that change something? I don't know.
There'll be pressure on DC to.
I don't know when the pressure tips this over. We've never gotten this close. I've never come before the county and past shutdowns and made this presentation. We've never gotten this close before.
Back to the discussion of how you decide who to hand the food out to. If you have someone walk up from Goodhue County that's a SNAP participant,
We'll tell them, no, this is
they'd be
for
turned
Olmsted. I know, but we're gonna advertise. We can direct them to our food shelf, and we'll advertise the heck out of it in Olmsted. And I'm thinking, Rochester Public will send a flyer. This idea came about like 2 days ago. I didn't have time to call the smaller school districts, but I'm sure that they will cooperate with us. They were all great during the pandemic. And the good news is, because of the pandemic, we know how to box food effectively and get it out quickly. We know how to work with other partners really well. So we'll figure out where the highest concentrations of need are. Depending on the numbers and who needs what, we partner with DoorDash right now for home delivery for people who are homebound. For this number of people, DoorDash isn't going to be the best option, but Who knows? We'll figure it out and we will direct it only to Olmsted County. This is a special and unique situation.
Switch gears a little for a minute.
Sure.
Because I'm looking at the whole picture, right, in the ask. So looking at these WIC numbers, you know, these families that will stop receiving $14,000 worth of medical formula.
Right.
I mean, is that a supplement to what they're purchasing on their own? Are these, you know, compromised infants about to get no medical formula, proper formula? Like, can you give us any sense of what that looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah, public health question. Yeah.
Yeah, Wendy can give you more
My
details.
best. Wendy O'Leary, WIC Services Manager for Olmsted County. And so WIC is a supplemental program. And so in general, we don't provide all the formula that a family needs. The backup would be SNAP. The other option we have is to reach out to medical assistants. They don't provide all medical formulas for all the reasons that we do. But that would be our first step, is to see which of the participants could receive it through medical assistance instead. And then there would be the gap of everyone else.
And then, you know, we've got good timelines on Channel One supporting us on the food side, like on the formula side. What's the timeline? What does that look like on us making a funding decision with that gap coming in 2 weeks? Any ideas there?
The gap with the formula.
Well, yeah, like, do we need to be 2 weeks out thinking about that or?
So I guess. So it's hard to kind of think through how the supply chain will work, because I've just now understood that the way that the grocery store gets the formula and the way that you go and get the formula. We've never bought formula before, and our partners in the Twin Cities have not either. Well, Feeding America was already looking into a formula donation, because there's other states that were saying there wasn't going to be WIC before November. So they kind of started that. That didn't happen, but they said it was going to. They kind of started that activation. So what we would do is contact Feeding America and ask for the sources. There's not very many people manufacture it. And then talk about what kind of price we could get and what kind of timeline. Because what we don't want to do is if Abbott's about ready to donate a bunch of formula, we don't want to call them and offer to buy it and undercut our peers. So it's delicate, but we can figure it out. So, I mean, if there's a market, there's a way. And worst case scenario, we've bought directly from local grocery stores before, and we have the space to like warehouse it separately and distribute it. And generally the grocery stores give us their at cost price. I mean, they would probably give that to the county too, but I think it just might be easier because we're used to buying food in bulk and putting it in the truck and distributing it. We're here to do whatever is the most effective thing for everyone. It doesn't have to be us.
Just a quick.
Yeah,
Thank you all for being here. Just a question, and I'm not being critical if the answer is no, but is there any activity in the faith community to step up to the shutdown crisis and help?
You know, I think this is all happening really quickly. I'm sure many of the churches, our faith community broadly, partner with Channel One. A lot of them have smaller food distributions, certainly give Channel One money. I think as this hits the news more, I expect donations will increase. I just don't know. Okay. This is all happening really quickly. And then just that number is so big. Even if all we had to do was 1.7 million for the region, I think we could probably do that. But if you look at the whole region, the number is just huge. What needs to be fundraised.
Commissioner, if I may, Megan Sheridan, Associate Director of Public Health. That's actually where the Food Security Coalition comes into play. So we have Channel One, but then that coalition brings together faith partners, nonprofits, Channel One, us, the different school districts to really understand the whole ecosystem of food security issues in Olmsted County, and then collaboratively come together. So they had a meeting yesterday, because it's only Tuesday today. But to start to have those questions too and figure out what they could be doing. So there's a very healthy ecosystem of everyone trying to work together. But to Virginia's point, it's kind of on a day-by-day basis of how we can all come together. So
I would, to her,
Thank
as
you
she
very much.
stated, I would say that we would experience
Sure.
that too.
And we really don't want to send people to the store, like, it's just not efficient to send people to the store to buy formula, to then bring somewhere else, to then
Right.
redistribute. If people want to help, it's best if they give money and then we make the bulk purchase. It's also best for the participants to not be running around to different churches trying to find out who has the food.
Yeah.
But the faith community is super important in supporting the food ecosystem.
I want to make sure I understand this. So if you're going to provide food in November, you basically need money to come now to be able to make that first order to be able to provide food and formula by November 1st, which is when the benefits may run out.
And I don't even know if we can get formula by November 1st, but the formula, it gets funded through mid-November. So we have a minute on the formula. We're asking about formula now. And now I do not think we can get the medical formula. If we get formula, it's going to be like the generic whatever. It's not going to be medical.
Yeah, but going on to the food thing, if we want to use Channel 1 to be able to fill this gap, the SNAP gap, as you call it, then we need to make a commitment sooner than later. This board doesn't meet until November 4th. So if we wait till November 4th, then we're talking mid to late November before you would start being able to fill that gap.
Unfortunately, yes. But I will say, if you made a commitment for, I mean, we really need a month-long commitment with like how in bulk we're trying to order. But certainly if we hadn't spent the money, we would make an agreement to give it back, if the government turns back on, if the government is funded. And then, also the food won't go bad. There's plenty of need. So it's not like if the government is funded, we'll throw it away. It will be distributed in Olmsted County.
Problem is I think everybody on the board realizes we can't do this forever, so.
And I recognize this is the county deciding to fill a federal government function is a big decision.
So we need some real discussion on this board to figure out what if anything we're gonna do go forward. Personally, I'd be supportive of funding half of this and challenging the community to come up with the other half. And then see you in a couple of weeks to see whether you're able to fill that. Support of that,
And in doing so, again, specific to the SNAP gap.
100%, yeah.
That it comes in, it's only for SNAP.
Only county residents, only people that are on the program already.
So if I may, I just want to be clear that Channel 1 is not prepared to stand up like a specific fundraising effort as a matching gift for Olmsted.
Maybe the group that you were just talking about.
Potential, I potentially that would need to go there and have some conversation, and they're not represented here today, so I don't want to speak on their
I mean, I
behalf.
don't know how the rest of the board might be at zero, the board might be at 390, I don't know, so.
But certainly, because we fundraise for our whole service area. And so we have to be equitable about that distribution of food. We can certainly take a restricted gift, like this is only for Olmsted residents. And then if we get more money than we're expecting, certainly some of that will go to Olmsted, but I just don't want you to think that I'm going to be on the news asking the community to match this gift, because that's not what we're planning.
No, but I think what I'm suggesting is that we challenge others to do that. I understand that you're gonna be, if we move forward with this, you're gonna be busy.
Yes, sir.
So I guess when I start thinking about it, so we're either making a decision tonight to use. So we're gonna do what, half, are we gonna do the full 88? So we're over 400,000, the total.
So we're,
Supplement,
say
right.
200,000.
Oh, you're gonna do half it. Okay, so 200,000. So tonight we would make a decision to use $200,000 of taxpayer dollars
$90.
to support this. Or we say, community, you need to make a choice if that's how you want your taxpayer dollars to be used, and challenge them to do it.
Well, they would,
And then
they
we
don't have a
make a
choice
decision.
to spend the taxpayer dollars, because it's gonna be too late. I mean, what I'm saying is we'd make the decision to spend half the dollars with levy dollars, and they make the decision whether they fill the other half.
And I'm saying nothing and say to the community,
Fill it all, but it's not taxpayer dollars, it's their own private dollars.
right, but they have
Yeah.
a choice in that
Yep.
versus us. Versus us
So
making a
that,
choice.
I mean, that's the discussion we need to have.
Mr. Chair, are you suggesting that we have that discussion right now
Yes.
tonight?
Yeah, because we don't meet again until November.
So the idea about the matching funds is compelling. However, it creates a matching message for some entity to organize and to send out effectively to the community. It creates a bit of work for a group or groups that they might not have, that they'd be hearing about for the first time, they might accept or not, or agree with or not. So it creates some work during a time where it's a critical timeline.
I know it is, but if, in my mind, if we committed to half, that would essentially give them 2 weeks to come up with the other half to be able to do the next truckload. If it's $390 a month, and then we're committing half of my time for the next truckload, because you're getting about 2 weeks at a time, is that right, Virginia? You might as well stay up here.
Yeah. It varies, it varies by item, and we'd be mixing the load. So if we get $150,000 of protein of some sort in a truckload, we'll put part of that on inventory for the region using our own money, and part of that will be your money. The team is trying to figure this out like right now, and this is back of the napkin math, backed up by data. I will say, I don't think you should count on the community matching $200,000 in 2 weeks and restricting it. I can commit to being really honest with you about our fundraising and what's coming in. And if it's more than what we've projected, because this is our board has said to me, I had a board member say once, can't you, all your income comes in, your donations, like late October through mid-January, can you spread that out? And I said, yes, if you change Christianity and taxes, but it all comes in. And so we'll have to kind of, to know if a campaign's successful, we'll have to parse out what we were projecting to get. And I don't know, it's a weird year. It's a weird year for fundraising, because even people who I would say are very wealthy are really feeling insecure and worried about the economy. And it's just hard to say what will happen.
Well, that's legitimate, but I don't know that there's board support for my suggestion, much less expanding it, other than maybe perhaps Laurel. I know that there's some powerful nonprofit groups out there that, there's Isaiah, and there's a group that you talked about.
Food Security Coalition.
Well, yeah, Food Security Coalition. I'd just like to see them step forward if we commit something.
If I could, Chair.
Yes.
I just offer, yes, and I think that the cleanest way for us to do it, if let's say this $200,000 example is something that the board wants to do, then we just commit those funds to Channel One and put the challenge out there to the community. But this matching fund idea, I think, is throwing people off a little bit. Like, if we only raise 50,000, that means we only give 50,000. No, I think if the board so chose, we would just give 200,000 and hope the community rose up and filled the rest of the tank. And
Well, that's essentially what I'm trying to say. We're not holding it off of them one for one coming in, but
yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is the community falls short. I don't think this board is going to come up with another 200,000 in November.
I think that's.
Andrew, you're right. The community absolutely has to come through, because many of these families really won't be able to bounce back from this kind of food scarcity for 1 or 2 or 3 months. It's unknown very easily, and some not at all. We could look at this as a crisis for sure for some families.
Well, we're going to see this crisis expand if things don't get settled, because rental assistance is ending in January, and I don't know how long MFIP is funded for. Was on one of the slides, MFIP, but
So the cash benefit will continue.
forever?
Well, yeah,
It's a
as far as
federal
we know.
program, right?
It is. It's the federal TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Family Program. So I don't think that's at risk, the cash portion. The food portion will be on hold like SNAP.
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to hear some thoughts. Dave, you got thoughts?
Well, I've got thoughts. I sort of expressed them on Friday. I just believe that, we are the county and we are the guardians of the public good in times of crisis. And it's times of crisis right now with respect to upwards to 5 to 10,000 of our members, households and within our county. And so and I think you mentioned Friday, I mean, we do very, very fortunately have some reserve and that's set aside for rainy days. And I think it's starting to rain and it will rain, I think, through November and through December and until frankly, the Medicaid thing, bubbles up to the boiling point and then maybe Congress will come together and solve this budget crisis. But until then, I think we've got a couple of months of crisis, in this case, hunger crisis, and I think we need to step up and light the torch, so to speak, and make this work for these families. And I mean, I'm frankly willing to go to 390, but I don't think, that probably won't sell, but I'm definitely interested in helping out tonight.
Others, thoughts?
I have a question.
Yeah.
The formula, is the formula gonna money last for the month, or is that something else that needs to be covered?
Yeah, Wendy can speak about this, but I would think with WIC benefit for food lasting through about mid-November right now, that the November cost would be something less than what's up there.
Right.
WIC benefits are on a rolling cycle, so you don't get them all at the beginning of the month. So some people who do have the first half of the month, they're probably gonna go purchase all of their formula. The people, the second half of the month who just start to get their benefits then would be the ones that have none.
So is your proposal including then the WIC and the medical formula? It doesn't appear to be, we can't buy that, I mean, from a grocery store.
I have no idea how you get medical formula. Yes. The majority is bought through pharmacy or grocery store.
I guess my poorly thought out plan was that we give $200,000 and let their people figure out how to spend it.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, for purposes of discussion, I would make a motion that we extend $200,000 to Channel One to be spent at their discretion in the name of the shutdown crisis towards food. And we'll see if there's a second
For Olmsted County residents. only.
for Olmsted County residents.
Okay, well, if I get a second, we'll still have discussion before we take a vote, so,
Yeah. I'll second.
okay.
So I have a question then, where are you gonna take the money from? Is it
Reserves.
come out of reserves? All right, so we,
Travis has got a better idea.
well, no, I'm just gonna,
We do have contingency dollars left. I believe, we're still here now. I think we're down to 380,000.
That's correct. 380.
So that would, it might defer you to
Sure.
the contingency.
Sure, that makes sense.
yeah, okay.
Are you
Before
ready?
we
Yes.
vote on this, is discussion for the full funding on the table.
Sure.
It can be after this motion is voted on.
Don't you get a
Yeah, I
minute?
suppose we got a motion in a second. We got to,
Gotta
Okay.
vote on this.
and you could advocate to defeat this motion in favor of 390 if you'd like.
See, it seems like we got a little, we're out of step. I'd prefer for us to vote on the full amount and then a partial amount.
You can amend the motion.
I'd like to amend the motion for the full funding of 400,000.
All right, so that would take Dave accepting it and then Greg accepting it.
No, I would, we don't need two steps. We just move or second the amendment, which I was willing to do from the start anyway, so I will second that.
Right, I'll take the rest of our contingency.
Do the rest of contingency and then
Then where do we get the rest?
where?
Yeah.
Reserves,
I'm
20,000
just
short.
about jumping in. I think we can challenge our community for a period of time, but
Okay.
so I'm not gonna vote for this. I
Okay.
appreciate it. Then I do think we have partners out there.
That's
can
Mr. Chair.
step
I'll just,
forward.
rather than put people through a vote, I'll withdraw the second.
Okay.
And I'll withdraw the amendment.
Or back to.
So right now, there's a motion on the floor for the 200,000.
Right.
Is there any more comments before we take a vote?
Well, absolutely in agreement to challenge our community to step forth in this time of need. That this complete burden doesn't fall on county government.
Right. We can't print money.
And that the community recognizes that this is an exceptional move from a county board.
Well, we could revisit this thing. If this continues on, the community, realistically, if this continues on through November and the community meets its challenge, then we're gonna have the same discussion a month from now, whether we do it again for the following month, you know. I would
Right.
imagine that if the community comes forward, that the board will be amenable for a period of time to help if the community's doing their part. Community falls short, I think we're gonna have a hard time. Maybe there's some community members that are listening that could have a solution.
I'd just like to note that recent legislation passed and signed by the president cut SNAP by $186 billion over 10 years. I think it's a very dangerous precedent for the county, any county, to step in and think that we can cover the cost of that kind of a deficit. We can't. And the more we try, and I commend all of you for thinking about it, trying to help. Nobody wants to see anyone go hungry. But someone's going to have to feel some pain so that Congress and the president will come together and actually resolve this crisis. It's been done before. Congress passed appropriations, special appropriations during the last shutdown to avoid this kind of disaster. So Congress has to act.
I appreciate that, Bob. We're one county of what, about 4,000 in the country. And I know that our acting is going to discourage the federal government from acting. If they want to come together and do their job, they'll do it. They're not going to hold off because Olmsted County, and I do appreciate what you're saying there. We can't fill that we just can't. We have limited funds. But this is a way to hopefully get our people through this trying time until the federal government does what it's supposed to.
Mr. Chair, can I just say, I appreciate Commissioner Hopkins' comments as well. I just don't believe that SNAP in and of itself is enough to trigger Congress to pass a budget resolution. I do think Medicaid money and the absence, the termination of Medicaid money will, but I think that's a greater crisis at the congressional level, but I don't think SNAP in and of itself is.
Sure. All right. Any more comments before we take a vote? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Nobody have comment?
Can I ask a clarifying question,
Yeah.
Commissioner? The 200,000 in the motion that's on the floor then is for both solve the formula issue if we find a solution for that and an approximate dollar amount to get us through November, and the food then.
That's the way I understand it. This is understand?
That's what I thought we
Okay,
said.
Okay,
thank you.
all right. All in
So,
favor? Oh,
Just
go
to
ahead.
clarify,
Yep,
the motion is to provide a $200,000 donation from the county
purchase of services.
to Channel One. No strings attached.
No, it's not. The strings. It's gotta be used for food for Olmsted County residents.
SNAP participants only.
Well, okay, that's one string.
That's the D string, basically food and formula.
Yeah, I think what we heard is if Olmsted County
But
residents.
no matching, none of that business,
So whatever,
no challenge.
no, the challenge is out there because this is for the month and we know the need is 400,000.
The thing about, I would say about the challenge is you're running a nonprofit. I mean, you have to understand, I mean, that's a huge undertaking to make to get that kind of messaging out there in a way that's going to have any impact at all. And we're making a snap decision out of the blue without any preparation whatsoever. I think the chances of the success of that are probably close to nil.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too, but based on my experience, I mean, making snap decisions like this without laying any groundwork is pretty scary.
Well, I know, but this deadline isn't deadline that we create. I mean, the government's, we're learning when we're gonna run out of funds.
Okay.
So we can do nothing and then react, or we can be proactive.
And this is a one-time thing.
Then we'll have to revisit it again, yeah. If the community comes through and we're satisfied, and this is still going on, then we'll have another decision to make in December.
Just trying to understand. So your point is, if we had more time to speak to the community and challenge the community with better, we could have a better chance of success, in your opinion, of getting a matching.
Yeah,
Is that-
I mean, it
that's-
takes a massive, community engagement campaign. I mean, you've got to, like anything else, you have to sell it. You have to be prepared to sell it. You have to, and in doing so, you're expending resources, time, money, advertising. It doesn't happen like that.
No, I agree. Doesn't happen like that. But our alternative is to do nothing then, and then we're balancing
The alternative is to challenge Congress to act.
that less, they don't listen much to us.
Yeah,
Yes. I know, and your concerns are legitimate. I don't blame your concerns. It's just, this is the cards we've been dealt. Now we gotta play them. So what do we want to do? Well, that's the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be in close touch.
I'm sure we will. Okay. Any informational items? Nothing. Okay, board and committee reports. Right,
No report.
Laurel,
No report.
hey,
Passed.
Sean. Okay, I'll go back. Bob, Sean's getting one ready.
no,
Okay, Brian.
I have a small report.
All right.
Commissioner Podolsky Smith and I did interviews for volunteers for the committees for Sheriff Civil Service Commission, Planning and Zoning, and Parks. And so we did go through 7 interviews and we were able to pick up some candidates and it looks good. I guess that's about all I have for the report.
Appreciate you guys doing that. That's great.
No report.
You pause me for no report. Okay, all right, it's got a short quote from Jackie Robinson. He said, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." That was entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Wow.